The story begins with our main character, who is on a quest for a certain book in a library, a book that is sealed by magic. He attempts to break the seal using his own sea seal. At this moment, the seal on the book begins to dissipate, revealing a drawing. Suddenly, a beautiful girl startles our hero. Our hero's name is Hilo. The girl comments on his long search and gives him only 10 more minutes. As Hilo persists in his perplexed quest, a large black snake unexpectedly appears and lunges at our hero. Hilo anticipated this and swiftly jumps aside. He then tries to analyze the origins of the snake. Was it black magic or illusion magic? At that moment, footsteps are heard in the hallway. The snake lunges at Hilo again, and he realizes that since it can cause physical harm, it must be a summoning magic. But where did it come from? The beautiful girl, who has the ability to walk through walls, and therefore could be logically deduced to be a ghost or something similar, warns Hilo about the inspector in the corridor. Peeking into the reading room, she is stunned to see the black snake. In this moment, Hilo, reciting a spell, creates a massive hole in the snake's skull. After that, with the inspector approaching, Hilo casts another spell and vanishes. Next, we see that the action of the manhwa is set in a country called Ashura. Once pure, humans and spirits lived together with gods and wizards in Ashura. The intersection of technology and magic was meant to advance civilization. However, thousands of years ago, a clan of demons abruptly attacked Ashura's lands. This led to a war between the demons and the wizards. Numerous powerful wizards and high-level spirits came together to combat the demons. Even though the demon army was kept from spreading, the battle was stalemated. Thus, the century-long war began until the country's first magic academy, Asgard, was established, the present academy of our main character. The academy consolidated all of the country's defensive structures and eventually sealed the demons away. We are shown Hilo, a student of the academy, peacefully dozing off in class. At this moment, the teacher casts a spell that releases a snake, which smashes directly into Hilo's face. The teacher asks Hilo to tell him about the academy's first significant event after its founding. Due to his lack of response, Hilo is punished, and his academy cloak is confiscated. After lessons, Hilo stands by a wall, mocked by his fellow students. Just then, the same girl with vivid blue hair approaches him. We learn that she is Hilo's spirit partner. Her primary mission is to protect her friend no matter what. It is also not hard to deduce that Hilo is related to Poseidon, given that he is the only active holder of the sea title. Hilo tells the girl that the seal he saw disturb him. He has seen this sign before on a sealed book in Grandfather Heia's collection. We find out that this seal once plunged a secret organization in the country into chaos. The organization's actions were suspicious, and their traces were all over the country. But everything associated vanished without a trace after the war. The seal was tied to the weakening of a talisman. An unknown force has already infiltrated the academy. As they stroll through the academy grounds, Hilo's spirit companion transforms into a Siamese cat, casually mentioning that she prefers her human form. Hilo is restless. The fact that the seal appeared in the academy library suggests its connection with the academy itself. However, since Hilo is new to the academy, he can't access more information. At this moment, a student yells for everyone to step aside and not to obstruct his path. We are introduced to Cindy Sandal, a member of the student council and vice president of the Asgard Academy. She has returned from a mission assigned to her by the academy's director, inspecting the other branches. Suddenly, she notices a scent coming from Hilo. At this point, the spirit suggests getting closer to Cindy, but Hilo rejects the idea. Members of the student council must always be in the public eye, and Grandfather Hai advised not to stick out, as the boundary agreement rules had been breached. After the Great Demon War, every spirit and god were made to sign a treaty prohibiting them from leaving their historic lands. And Hilo, a human who became a god, is an accidental loophole in this system. Cindy approaches him, having picked up his scent and recognizing him as a newcomer, and invites him to join her in the meeting room. We are shown a large table around which creatures in cloaks have gathered. They are playing chess, and at this moment, a snake that has been spying on Hilo and his friends slithers in. They discuss that Cindy has found Hilo, who had been hiding in the library. One of the creatures mentions that the Sandal family has caused quite a bit of trouble, but Hilo's scent has already been remembered and imprinted, so all that's left is to wait for when they will start battling each other. Upon entering the meeting room at Asgard Academy, Cindy senses an aura of the seal emanating from Hilo. That Hilo be a member of a secret society. For now, all Cindy can find out is whether Hilo has come into contact with the seal. We are taken back 3 days. An explosion occurs in the castle. 2 unknown figures in masks stand on a tower spire, laughing at Cindy. As we see further, it's possible that the Sandal family possesses magic spells related to lightning, as her accomplice launches an electrified chain at the unknown individuals in an attempt to capture them. This is interrupted by dark magic, and the 2 strangers flee. We are shown the academy again, where Cindy is talking to Hilo. She asks his purpose for visiting the academy, to which he replies, training and practice of magic. Cindy doesn't believe him and speaks to her accomplice, Victor. Victor traps Hilo in a high-level magic barrier, and he finds himself entrapped. Cindy, using her power, releases magic from her wand, creating golden knights in armor, crackling with the energy of lightning. She intends to kill Hilo. In the meantime, one of the students runs to the academy's chairman and reports that Cindy is again picking on a newcomer. Hilo gradually begins to fight the knights using his water magic. Cindy sees potential in him. Hilo tells her that if this continues, he will go to the professor. Suddenly, Victor attacks from behind, sending Hilo straight into a wall, creating a hole. The water barrier Hilo had created around himself for protection could harm him. What is he going to do now? Cindy asks Hilo to tell her about Askar's plans. Hilo begins to analyze how he can escape. The room is secured with a magical barrier. After he uses his powers, evading suspicions would be impossible. At this point, Victor starts to attack Hilo, but Hilo plunges into the fight with a precise bout of envy named Leviathan. Hilo ends up behind Victor, attacks him, but Victor stops his blow with his powers. Hilo activates the second level of Leviathan, causing Victor to be thrown against the wall. A fight starts between Hilo and Cindy. Cindy tries to attack with the knights. In response, Hilo starts to defend himself. Suddenly, the chairman of the academy arrives and stops the fight. Her name is Julia Warist. She is Cindy's very sister. Julia apologizes to Hilo for her sister's rudeness. Julia takes Hilo with her, and Cindy goes to report to the director. Julia and Hilo go to the office, but a student interrupts them, saying that the librarian wants to talk to her. Here Hilo remembers the words of Grandpa Hay, who said that if he meets anyone from the Warist family, he must give them the medallion. So he does. Looking at the medallion, Julia realizes that it's a family relic. But where did Hilo get it? Julia asks Hilo to follow her. Regardless of status, all students love Julia. Julia is very different from her sister, Sandy. Earlier, in the library, Hilo checked the student lists. However, nothing was found about Julia Warist. In other words, when reading, Hilo made a mistake and read Julia's surname differently. Arriving at the office, Julia asks Hilo, where did he get this medallion? In turn, Hilo replies that he received this medallion from an elder. The elder said that the pendant should be shown in case the Warist's help is needed. Julia replies that this is a special symbol of the family, which was given to several people. The owner can use the pendant to turn to their family for help. Hilo asks for help. He needs access to the archival documents of the Academy of all levels of secrecy. Julia agrees, but under one condition. At this moment, Sandy is reporting to the director. The director's name is Lane Glens. Sandy claims that Hilo is related to the SEAL and may be a secret member of the organization. The director replies that he doesn't care, let him do what he wants. Leaving, Sandy tells Lane that she will continue to pursue the members of the SEAL and that he remembers about the agreement. Coming out of the office, Sandy asks Victor to find Leo and Siga. At this moment, one of the secret followers of the SEAL appears in the director's office. Apparently, Lane is an antagonist. Julia remembers the past in a boy who looks a lot like Hilo. So could it have been him? A student comes to her and talks about a planning meeting for the Academy's contest. Meanwhile, Hilo stands at the threshold of the library. He is found by a teacher whom Julia had warned. He asks him to follow him. It's not that simple. Under the guise, Hilo is supposedly assigned to the library to assist with sorting books. We also learn that the spirit, Shields, can't touch anyone or anything except Hilo since she became a spirit. A rumble is heard and we are shown a beautiful female teacher who has lost her glasses. Hilo helps her find her glasses. She casts a spell and all the books return to their places. After that, she runs to the second floor, but in doing so, she drops a stone with the words Campbell Megamod written on it. The stone is protected by a magic formation you can't pass without permission. Evening comes, the task of sorting books is completed, but the teacher never showed up to return her lost item. Hilo and Shields wait for her near the library. Shields says that she may have left through another exit and can be returned tomorrow. The sorcerer from the organization watches all this. On their way to the campus, Hilo and Shields run into Leo and Ziga, two second-year students from the Flame faculty. Leo and Ziga attack Hilo, but he is not up for a fight, he runs away. After running some distance, Hilo notices the heat of the flame behind him. The supreme flame elf, Jukeiro. A strange thing, how can Jukeiro become a human elf if he constantly serves the circle of the black flame dragon? In the end, Leo and Ziga catch Hilo off guard. Leo releases lava slime from a magic wand, which almost touches Hilo. Hilo asks Shields to hide, but Shields doesn't like this idea. She asks Hilo to run with her. But Hilo made a decision, he will fight. Leo attacks Hilo with Jukeiro, but he deflects. Here we learn that this is a check on the unsealing of the seal from Sandy. Hilo has to show what he is capable of. After a short fight, a stranger in a mask appears. We are transferred to the small Askar theater, where Shields asks Hilo about Jukeiro. Jukeiro is the supreme flame elf, born of the ancient flame near a volcano crater. He feeds on lava, aggressive by nature. It collects fire through the upper hole and releases a fiery beam at the enemy. When the clan was defeated for territory, they started to serve the black flame dragon as payment. 3 magic circles prove the slavery agreement. We are shown the same round table of the SEAL organization, where they say that Sandy's people have already met Hilo. Killing Sandy's people and setting up the boy will divert attention from the grand cause. 2 members of the organization, one is wearing a jester mask, and the other is wearing a pirate mask. They ask the leader if they can expect success this time. He tells them that this time one of the first 7 was sent, a manipulator, the world of exchange, the 6th doll. Hilo is just getting acquainted with this manipulator. He smells black magic. Leo understands that this is one of the new organization, who, according to Sandy, could be an accomplice of Hilo. But according to the plan, they need to retreat and wait for Sandy's arrival. Leo ignores the order and attacks the man in the Juke mask. He very briskly deflects the attack with water magic and redirects it to another place. When fire and earth magic combine, an explosion occurs. With a quick move, the man in the mask cuts Leo in half and traps him in the illusion of black fog. Ziga tries to bring Leo back to his body, but the man in the mask says that only he can dispel this magic. Ziga doesn't like this. He starts to make a noise and gets hit with black magic. Some dark substance wraps around his neck like a vine and he can't breathe. The man in the mask is already preparing to kill him, but Hilo throws himself at him with a sword. With a swift move, Hilo severs the hand of a stranger with his sword, but the stranger quickly recoils. From a distance, Sandy realizes that it's time to intervene and signals to Victor to ready himself. With speed reminiscent of the Flash, she darts towards the scene of conflict. The masked stranger is taken aback by Hilo's power, especially since he managed to penetrate the illusion of the dark mist and even wound him. According to the antagonist's wicked plan, they were supposed to keep Hilo alive for a bit longer. Deciding to avoid any further complications, the stranger decides to finish Hilo off himself. From beneath the stranger's dark cloak, a hand emerges displaying a pattern that Hilo recognizes. Hilo confronts the stranger, "Are you the castle?" The stranger retorts, suggesting Hilo knows too much for a commoner, especially given his power. The stranger then questions Hilo's motives, asking why he's trying to save the very guys who wanted him dead. Hilo responds that it's none of his business, but inwardly, he believes they are linked to the ancient flame. Meanwhile, Zig cradles an unconscious Leo in his arms, contemplating that Sandy's intel was off. Hilo isn't in cahoots with the masked man. Earlier that day at the academy, Sandy had ordered Zig and Leo to lure out Hilo. Leo remarks that it's too simple a task for him before departing. Sandy stops Zig, requesting to speak with the entity within him, the black fire dragon, Reikuno. Later on, Hilo is seen conversing with the stranger, trying to figure out why he needed Zig and Leo and the reason the castle wanted to infiltrate the academy. The stranger hints he'll disclose some information if Hilo manages to survive, then immediately directs dark energy beams at him. Dodging and deflecting, Hilo realizes that these dark beams can anticipate his moves. Magic that predicts. No, the beams can't predict where he'd land, otherwise, they preempt his moves, not just avoid them. What's going on? Hilo pondered. How could he manipulate these black beams from a distance without leaving a trace of magic? It turns out that these rays somehow tapped into emotions, and if one didn't sidestep these emotions, they wouldn't be able to evade the rays. Joy, sadness, fury, and despair. These intense or harsh emotions are deeply woven into people's lives, dictating their actions. These threads are invisible to the common eye, but the stranger could see them. Using a touch of magic, they become controllable. He noticed such a thread when his hand was severed. Seizing the moment, he attached several guiding threads to the hand. The magic of these guiding threads is fragile and unstable. A slight motion would cause a substantial waver, making what seems like a thread in reality a diversion from an attack. Over time, this magic will gradually draw in other threads, increasing their number until they're fully under control. The beams started assaulting repeatedly, and Hilo decided, instead of deflecting, he'd disregard the beams and focus on the caster. But that proved challenging. As he got close to the stranger, beams erupted from the ground, barricading his path and halting his assault. Hilo was thrown backward. Sitting on the ground, he discerned a pattern. The beams mimicked the movements of his right hand. Focusing, he sliced through the beams, but close by, the stranger reappeared, landing a blow. Just then, Sandy, with a powerful kick, swoops in, pushing the stranger away from Hilo. It's here that we learn the stranger's title, the Sixth Puppet. Sandy still recalls him stealing the Secret of the Sea previously. The Secret of the Sea is a seal used to suppress demons. This is precisely why Hilo couldn't locate it in the library. Sandy thanks Hilo for his assistance but remains wary of him. However, for now, the most immediate threat is the Sixth Puppet. The alien demon was last suppressed centuries ago. It couldn't be eradicated entirely, but it was successfully sealed using 7 sacred artifacts imbued with divine power. These relics were guarded by 7 gods. As time passed and gods changed, the seal started to fade. Recently, rumors spread in Asgard among other historic places that the previous generation of the sea god sensed the weakening of the seal that bound the demon. During her stay, Shields felt an anomalous magic wave near the library multiple times. Hilo and Shields ventured out to investigate but returned empty-handed. It could be inferred that the sea mystery artifact was stolen by the Sixth Puppet. If Hilo could defeat it but can't restore the seal, he might at least determine its location. Suddenly, a deadly explosion occurred, a tactic employed by puppetry magic. Sandy quickly created a magical barrier using her wand, and the technique collided with it. Sandy stressed the need for combined efforts to win and mentioned the Limit Stone as their ace. At the academy, a potent shield set up by the principal surrounded the entire territory, serving as a primary external defense. Direct spells, those of the ocean, thunder, earth, storm, fire, and forest, would be suppressed due to the concurrent use of magical barriers. The Limit Stone has the capability to break through these barriers and force open the attribute's boundaries. In the puppet dimension, their chances of winning were almost none. The Limit Stone had to be destroyed and then suppressed using the principal's magic. Sandy suggested Hilo tackle the puppeteer while she focuses on destroying the stone. Hilo mentioned obstacles preventing his approach, to which Sandy replied that he should target the puppets and she'd deal with the dark threads. But they only had 10 seconds. Hilo argued it wasn't enough time. Sandy reminded him that in their past battles, she noticed his prowess in close combat, while the puppets rely heavily on their dark threads to torment and subsequently reap their victims. In essence, a puppet isn't strong in melee fights. On Sandy's cue, they split up. As Hilo readied his attack, just moments before Sandy's arrival, a targeting boundary was set. But Sandy signaled to Victor and Sage, who activated a fire and thunder magical barrier in the distant woods. This enhanced shield would limit the puppet's movements. The main challenge in dealing with the puppet is its invisible magical threads. Although these threads are weak, eliminating them entirely is an intricate task. At present, there aren't definitive means to destroy them, but an attempt can be made. When a massive barrier is formed, a surge of magical power floods in. Two opposing elements face off, with dual streams of magic merging in an attempt to annihilate one another. In the process, they also affect these threads and scatter them to various locations. However, in just 10 seconds, the magical power will stabilize, and the magical lines will reconnect, leaving only one shot at this. The sixth puppet makes its move, determined to thwart their efforts, and launches an attack. Suddenly, a fiery maelstrom sweeps through Zaid's spell that embeds his fiery seal. Simultaneously, with a Thunder Universe spell, all powers converge on the stone. The puppet is rendered motionless, and Sandy cues Hilo. Hilo then casts his spell. Since the designs of the castle had been uncovered, it's highly likely that the weakening of the seal is directly connected to it. Hilo must retrieve the seal from the puppet, so losing the battle isn't an option. As Hilo advances, the puppet simultaneously attacks him with black threads. However, Hilo employs thunder magic to boost his speed and strikes back. All his efforts seem in vain. The puppet defensively creates a barrier around itself. The boundary stone was destroyed, but was it the only one? It soon becomes clear that Hilo has walked into a trap, his body ensnared by the threads. The puppet had long created a swampy dark zone around itself, using illusions to trap Hilo. Sandy too was engulfed in illusions, making her unable to assist Hilo. Just as the puppet starts to seal Hilo in an eternal slumber within the threads, a figure named Canpier emerges from the forest, preventing Hilo's confinement. In the next scene, we see Ken conversing with the director, who hands her the secret of the sea. The director instructs her to give it to Hilo, as it was his responsibility to guard it from the outset. Hilo had come seeking it, so it must be returned. Hilo breaks free from the trap, and the puppet crumbles into pieces, hinting that their paths would cross again soon. Hilo is left wondering about his mysterious savior. Sensing the unfolding events, the director believes the person he's been waiting for is indeed Hilo. If that's the case, beside him should be the former guardian of the demonic seal, the luminous goddess Siersai. The narrative then introduces us to two strangers clad in identical black cloaks. The story takes place at night in the 7th dormitory of Ascara Academy. Upon returning, Hilo lies on his bed, deep in thought about recent events. He realizes the puppet had the upper hand against him. The puppet's threads seemed like an endless trap from which he couldn't break free. It was in that dire moment that he spotted her shields, known to many as Canseer. The Limit Stone had arrived from Ascara, and its influence was already in motion. There were 6 seals left to discover, and time was running out, as conveyed by Can. On the battlefield, Sandy informed Hilo that no one else had been there. Before the fight began, a magical barrier was in place, ensuring no outsiders could interfere. Otherwise, she would have sensed it. Changing the subject from the puppet, Sandy curiously probed Hilo's identity. Was he truly a newcomer to the academy? His abilities surpassed any average student, even seniors would struggle against him. Who was Hilo, really? Hilo chose to remain silent, prompting Sandy to shift topics. She needed to send Leo and Ziga for medical attention and address some issues. Hilo, too, needed to tend to his injuries. They agreed to meet the next day at noon in the conference hall. How were the Limit Stone, Ascara, and the sealed artifact interconnected? That was a puzzle Hilo would have to solve, but not today. He was too exhausted, and tomorrow held the promise of a talk with the deputy. Hilo wondered about Shield's whereabouts. They had returned home together, but she had vanished soon after. At that moment, Hilo's classmate, Sora, entered the room. They engaged in conversation, and Sora handed Hilo a note from the student council. It was an application form for participation in the grand tournament. Ascara Academy annually held this competition, open even to freshmen. The victor earned the chance to train in special magic. The tournament was being held earlier this year than in the past. The student council representatives also mentioned an added challenge for this year's event. Rumor had it that a tower, sealed for decades, would be opened. Whispers abounded that a ghost haunted its chambers. Hilo dismissed the idea of competing. He already had plenty on his plate without adding a tournament to the mix. Later that night, on a balcony of the dormitory, Shield sat on the railing. Hilo approached her, and she advised him to leave Ascar Academy immediately.